GVO squatter, it's Nestle Gang. Hey, it's Nestle Gang. GVO squatter.
Good morning, good evening, or good night. This is your boy Nesby here with another Trans Men Speak. They are taking a chance and sharing their stories. So, GVO Squad, you already know to show them nothing but love and support. These men took the time to show me love and support, and I am so very grateful for them. Tonight, you are meeting. My name is Donny, and I am a 35-year-old trans man. I have been on testosterone for a little over a year. I'm going to talk about where I was in my life around the time I came out as trans. I have been in and out of jail and prison for over half of my adult life. I had also been addicted to drugs since I was a teenager. Drugs were my way of escaping from myself, my way to feel good and not deal with an unpleasant reality. I didn't like myself or the body I was in. When I was high, I didn't have to feel that pain. I could float in and out of consciousness. As I got older, the drugs I used got harder. I would engage in risky behavior and criminal activity to obtain money for the drugs I needed. Not only did I use drugs to get high, but to keep withdrawals at bay. All of my life, I carried myself in a masculine way. Many would describe me as a butch, stud, or dyke, but honestly, those words never fit me. I know the feeling. I always just felt like a guy, but in my head, I thought since I was not assigned male at birth, I couldn't be a man, and I just had to make the best of what I was. Even as a kid, everyone would think of that my little brother and I were twins. Secretly, I liked that. I always assumed to be male until people knew otherwise. In my head, I would daydream about my life as a guy and how much happier I would be. As an adult, people thought I was a teenage boy. I am naturally pretty hairy due to my ethnicity, so I had to shave my face and I had a lot of body hair. In prison, many masculine women use male pronouns, so whenever I was locked up, I was treated like a man by other inmates. It made me feel affirmed. Then, whenever I would get out, it was back to being called she, unless it was by a stranger who assumed that I was a male. Basically, I was passing before I ever came out as trans. I didn't know what being trans was exactly. A friend of mine said she thought I might be. I told her I wasn't because although I wanted a dick, I would like to have been born with one, not have surgery. I thought since I did not want phalloplasty, I couldn't be trans. I thought that too, but that's definitely not the case. I'm just saying. I didn't understand. Also, at the time, there was not much information online about this type of thing. So I really had no idea that I was actually trans. I was already a man when I thought when I would have sex, I would have to imagine myself with a dick in order to orgasm. I was also dysphoric about my body that I didn't want to be seen naked and was afraid to be touched most of the time. Often I had to have the lights out or keep my clothes on. I didn't understand this. I thought I was ashamed of my body. It still hurts though, and those feelings are still there. Even looking at myself naked in the mirror before a shower can make me feel so unhappy. The only way I knew how to make those feelings go away, even for a little bit, was to get high. Definitely know that feeling. We didn't do the same drugs, but I know the feeling. But being involved in the game comes with a price. The last time I was arrested, I was in a car getting high with some people I sold heroin to. When the officer approached the passenger door with his gun drawn, he said, "Sir, take the needle out of your arm." I didn't take it out until I pushed all the dope in my vein. Oh shit. Then I put my hands up. They were going to have a male officer search me. It wasn't until the woman that was driving told them that I was not a guy. They had to call a female officer to pat us down. Fast forward to this last bid I was doing. I had been in a few months. Everyone was calling me he again. There was a few other masculine types in there. Sometimes I thought maybe they felt the same as I did, but when I would talk to them, I realized how different we were. Although they liked to present themselves in a masculine way, they were fine with their bodies. They liked their curves and they liked where they were okay being seen naked in the shower. They didn't get depressed about not being born male. Most of them were just masculine lesbians. I was beginning to realize that I wasn't. I was a trans man. One day there was a really big fight. Shit like that happens often. But this time everyone was getting riled up and nobody was going back to their cells when the officers were yelling for us to. Our whole block got locked down for 3 days. That meant we had to stay in our locked cells and were not allowed in the day room to watch TV or use the phones. Also, no showers and no razors. After not shaving my face for 3 days, I had grown some stubble. I embraced it. From then on, I let it grow out. I had a thin mustache and a goatee. I liked it, and my roommate did too. She told me it made me look more like a man, and so did some of the other girls I liked playing cards with. It felt affirming, so I kept it. My mom didn't like it when she came to visit, but it wasn't her face, so it didn't matter. I had always hated my dead name because it was very feminine, so I asked to be called Don or Donny. This is close to my dead name, so it wasn't that hard for people to adjust. I was in an empowerment class in jail. We were talking about sometimes when we want things we cannot have, it leads to unhappiness. It was my turn to speak. I was pretty much just trying to joke around and get a few laughs, but I was being serious at the same time. I talked about how whenever I saw the Aqua di Gio commercial, I got sad. I wanted to look like the guy on the ad. He was tall, handsome, and muscular. He had a 5 o'clock shadow and a chiseled jaw. I told the class when I saw him I wanted what I couldn't have. Not to be with this guy, but to actually be him. I wanted to look like that. But it was impossible because I knew it could never happen. Much to my surprise, my teacher said that times have changed, and if I really wanted to look like that, I might be able to come close, minus being tall, of course. I knew she was right. I knew that I owed it to myself to try to decide to stop hiding and come out. I planned to pursue HRT as soon as I was released. Unfortunately, I had no idea when that would be, but I was no stranger to bidding, and I was going to make it. I was transferred to a jail in another city where I had more pending charges. I was held in solitary confinement for a week, isolated with no access to a shower, phone, or TV. I was told by the lieutenant that this was to cover the bases due to me being trans. They said I was the first trans inmate there, and they had to get in touch with some of the higher ups in order to know where to house me. After about a week, I was finally allowed into general population. I was lucky enough to get sentences to a prison that had a work release program. Although I knew that they were very rigid as far as dealing with mental health issues, and I was pretty sure that at the time being trans might be considered one. So I kept it from the staff. The warden asked me to shave my goatee, so I did. I just wanted to do my time and get out without causing waves. So that's what I did. At the job I was given, they had a break room with computers. It was there that I started to do research about going on testosterone and watching some YouTube videos that were made by other trans guys. Seeing the timeline was promising. I was finally released and started testosterone a couple weeks later. I knew it was right for me and never looked back. Parts of me thought that transitioning would cure all of my problems. To be honest, it proves my life in many aspects, but it wasn't long before some of those old demons came back to haunt me, like they always do. It's been a struggle, but I've been trying to get back on the right path. The time I chose to get better rather than being forced against my will. My life belongs to me now. Shout out to you, Donny. I definitely have been through some of those situations, but not all of them. My prayers for you and dealing with, staying on the right path. Thank you for sharing your story with us. We greatly appreciate it again. And later, guys.